Ahoy, fellow conspiracy theorists.
And welcome aboard the Joy of Trek, a classified podcast exploring the bombed-out labs and subspace ruptures of Star Trek Orbit. I'm Cocky.
I'm Kay.
And with the higher clearance level is your chief engineer, Greg.
Together, we're on a mission through Ground Zero of Star Trek to find the radiation poisoning in every crew member and the excellence in every episode.
Even the pregnant actresses. Oh, yeah.
Because every episode must be someone's favorite, and it might as well be us.
So decompress your containment unit and join us as we blast into
the Joy of Trek.
Hello, everyone. We're doing the Omega Directive.
Voyager, Season 4, Episode 21.
First aired on April 15th, 1998.
All right, so that answers the question that we were talking about earlier.
Whether it might have been inspired by
Galaxy Quest, so no.
Which had the Omega 13 device. Teleplay by Lisa Klink, story by Jimmy Diggs and Steve J. Kay, and directed by Victor Lobl. And Kay, what happens in the Omega Directive?
Sorry, you're not clear for that.
Well, fortunately, Chief Engineer Greg has a higher security clearance, so he can actually tell us.
Yes, but you can't.
Oh, we can't even hear him? No,
exactly.
Oh, well, I guess we're going to have the unusual pleasure of trying to recap an episode that we're not supposed to have seen. So, hey, everybody be cool, right? Because as I asked you way back when, are you a Star Trek fan or are you a narc?
Oh, yes, a knock?
Yeah. Like
knock is about, right, knocking about. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah, sorry. So, this is actually quite a tricky episode to do research on. Because if you search for Voyager 421, you get lots of links to hair dryers and headphones for some reason.
Wait, what?
Yeah, I don't know. It's like I was trying to do some research on this, and if you just Google Voyager 421, it's all about hair dryers and headphones.
Huh. If you do Voyager 420, do you get like dispensaries and
Probably.
CBD and other products from the devil's lettuce?
Right, yes, I guess so.
Do you remember this episode?
Oh, I don't think I had seen it before, no. I don't
Really?
think it's one of the Voyager ones that I've seen. So, it kind of rung a bell for some reason, but it's no. I mean, if I had seen it, it's just like a vague memory.
It sort of lived in my memory pretty huge as one of those ones where suddenly like a huge piece of Star Trek lore was just dropped on top of us.
Oh,
in
yes.
a very exciting kind of way. Like the idea that Starfleet is this complex organization, and even though we've been following, I think by this time Deep Space Nine had finished.
Right. Yeah.
So we had like 3 seasons of the original series, The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, 4 of Voyager. So we're 21 seasons in, and there are still secrets.
Suddenly we learn that there is a massive, well, it's not really a conspiracy theory, if it's true, is it?
Exactly. It's a conspiracy.
Right.
It's just straight up conspiracy.
Which is that every starship captain gets briefed on the Omega Directive.
Yeah.
Which is destroy the Omega particle.
At all costs. Like, the Prime Directive is rescinded.
Yeah.
Everything else.
I think I've just been spoiled by watching too much alien-related content recently, but I can't see the word rescinded without just thinking about all other priorities rescinded, crew expendable kind of a thing. So that's what came to my mind with this episode.
It's a bit stupid system, though.
Why?
Okay, so, like, for instance, you are, like, zooming around.
Is this your warp core?
Well...
Are you?
Maybe...
I said we eject the warp core!
Guess, maybe a little bit.
All right.
Because, like, okay, just imagine you are, like, in a tense scenario. Be it, like, diplomatic negotiations or even actual combat or the threat thereof. Suddenly, ship sensors detect Omega particle, locks down all stations, makes it completely unable to do anything with the ship until the captain releases it.
I mean, presumably it wouldn't happen during Red Alert. I'd imagine that you'd design it that way.
Yeah, I don't know. Could be.
But, like, under normal operations, yeah, it just completely locks down all stations, and the only thing that you can do is get a captain.
Yeah.
And this is considered a better alternative than informing someone who hasn't already been inducted.
No, of course. I get that. But it seems a bit weird. Because you could also program the computer to, capture the data file. Clearly the computer does the analysis, right?
Yes.
So the computer knows that, like, we have Omega particle. Okay, the computer is capable of locking out the entire ship. So it should also be able to get that sensor data because the captain does that manually.
Yes.
And then send it to the captain porter, put up a captain's alert, an Omega alert for the captain in the captain's earpiece, and then just leave ship operations completely normal.
it's not just the Omega particle, also the Omega knowledge.
Right, yes.
It's not allowed. Like, apparently, the Starfleet protocol would rather an entire ship's crew die than even anyone outside of the captain learning that Omega exists. Because even the knowledge about it increases the risk of something happening with it. So
I fail to see how locking the ship down and then having the captain manually release it is better than just containing the information and by the computer and having it only available to the captain.
I mean, maybe they don't even want the computer processing it.
Well, it clearly does, because it's...
No, maybe like as soon as it receives that, like the signature of an Omega particle, the computer completely shuts down, stops processing information, deletes the last 3 seconds of information. Only when the captain releases it does it start processing again.
Okay, possible. Again,
Yeah,
very dangerous.
Okay, well,
Up to the point of stupidity.
Clearly, it's so much more dangerous than right. I mean, you keep challenging me with these things, Kay. Do you expect me to go along? This is the joy of Trek. There is implicit hostility against criticism. But let's find out who recommended this to us, because the Omega Directive, Star Trek Voyager, Season 4, Episode 21, was recommended by the Derp Prime, who said,
"It's not as special to me as one might think. But the Omega Directive does something that we don't often see in Star Trek. We don't often see the Federation give us a reason why they do things. It's been probably 2 decades since I've seen the series. But 3 things stand out in this episode. Perhaps the first and most important is we rarely see a fear of science in Star Trek. Wacky science is always the solution to a wacky problem. In here, wacky science causes the problem and it can't be resolved. And it's how Janeway, for the second point, handles that. She tells the crew. It's the highest security thing in the Federation, and she tells the crew so they can deal with it. That scene always stands out in just the amount of trust they all have together. But the most important scene for me is when Seven experiences her religious moment as the particle begins to stabilize, begins to become perfect order. As an Apathiest, let gods do their thing and I do my thing and everyone's happy. You know, we don't step on each other's toes. So it's nice for me to see when science and religion can work together, where you have the magic of religion and you have the explanation of science, and while they meet, they don't mesh. And we get to see that very well done in this episode. To be perfectly frank, I would like to see it more in Star Trek. Here's hoping we get to.
Hey, thank you, the Derp Prime.
Oh, yeah.
Obviously, we respect people's names. That's a great perspective, because this episode had been kicked around for a while by the writers' room. Brandon Braga talked about this, that they knew it was going to be controversial. They wanted to do something big and lore-setting.
Right.
But it was very dry for a long time, because it was based on the science and the ethics of, you know, exactly the questions that you had, until they hit on the idea to make it a science versus spirituality versus religion.
Sure.
And really managed to, like, because then you got a really great trinity between Captain Janeway, Chakotay, and Seven.
Right.
Each of whom have different relationships with science, spirituality. They've integrated them in different ways, which meant that they could, like, play these different roles.
And, of course, not just that, but also different approaches towards Starfleet and...
Oh, very good point, yes. That this Venn diagram, you know, they have different combinations of those same properties. Very good point. So what did other people think about this episode?
Jammer's reviews. In a nutshell, not riveting but ambitious, respectably original and nicely conceived. Darren, writing for the movie blog, says it's an episode which finds Janeway acting secretively and unilaterally, casually brushing aside the Prime Directive in service of some hidden agenda. This is a very big deal. On the original Star Trek, it frequently seemed like the Prime Directive was something for Kirk to outwit. However, since Next Generation, the franchise has taken the rule to have a lot more moral weight. Even more precisely, since Caretaker, Janeway has emphasized that it is not her place to intervene directly in the affairs of alien civilizations, which is very much, what happens. So that's for fan reviews.
Interesting.
Popular Mechanics reacted with derision to the concept of the Omega particle, listing at one of the 6 ridiculous sci-fi energy schemes and describing it as a ridiculous derivation from the general Star Trek value of making technobabble believable. I'm not entirely sure that I agree with that last
That's
point.
holding Star Trek to a standard that it has literally never met.
No, absolutely not. So yes, that's roughly what the internet, a small thing about what the internet has said, although there was not a lot of stuff to be found about this episode other than the usual sources, of course.
Interesting. Like, I'm delighted that it was recommended because, it in many ways, it's kind of a middle-of-the-road episode. Like, it doesn't move people forward.
Well, it's interesting because of the implications, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, we were watching it with a friend of the show, Solly, who commented, like, would have been nice to have those mushrooms now, wouldn't it?
Mushrooms?
Oh, we'll get there. Let's warp into the episode. Because we begin with 7 of 9's morning routine.
Yes.
0600 hours. Regeneration cycle complete.
And she starts making her log. She has some stuff to do with Ensign Kim and assign some extra time because Kim is always tardy and nattery.
Also, she detaches from her MagSafe docking station.
So actually, this kind of made me think about this as well. Well, they always go so it starts as follows.
Daily log 7 of 9. Stardate 15781.2.
Why do they always say the start date? It's a computer log. It should be
metadata.
automatically appended, right?
Hey, you just played a clip.
I did.
Okay.
Yes.
The technology is working. We've democratized it. Now we're going to be a Venn diagram where we all have different levels of power and responsibility, and only one of us is actually really competent at his job, and I think we all know which one that is.
That's Greg.
Yes. Unquestionably. Everyone at home. Yeah.
I was gonna say, if it wasn't me, I was gonna have to just figure out how to put my face in this audio medium podcast of just staring blankly at the camera and just waiting for the reply. But no, you chose the right answer. I don't have to choose violence in my edit now.
Oh, very good. Yes. Saying the star date.
I guess it's for the viewers' benefit, you know.
I mean, it's 3 seconds, I guess.
Right. But also then they later they go Captain's log supplemental. It might be usually sometimes a day later.
A decimal increment, at least, you'd expect.
Yes, but they don't use it. So apparently then it's not important anymore, when the date is, or it's...
Yeah. Star dates, they really don't matter.
It's just a thing to put some sort of temporal continuity in it. Because it's it usually starts with the date, or when there's a gap. That's what they seem to use it for, too.
Yeah.
It's something that's done at the beginning of the episode or in the middle of an episode if a significant amount of time has passed. And often they'll start with a
exactly.
with a log entry.
I mean, in my giant database of Star Trek episodes that we use to make these show notes, it does feature a column for the known star dates for every episode.
Oh, yes.
And there are some episodes where it just isn't mentioned.
Yeah.
And in Star Trek Enterprise, it's just July 8th. Right, July 8th, 2152.
Oh, of course, it's pre-star date. Yes.
Exactly.
Oh, interesting, yeah. So, 7 goes off to find Kim, who is playing some Vulcan game.
Vulcan Calto.
Which they've been playing all night.
Apparently so. He doesn't even realize that. Oh, it's 0600 already? It's oh.
Yep. And very graciously, Tuvok offers...
I'll accept your forfeit.
Yeah, asshole. But Kim is determined to finish. He's never been this close to winning. Stares at the game for a little bit longer, then rather rudely, 7 just takes his playing piece and puts it on the thing, and actually impressing Tuvok by...
Impressive.
Mm-hmm. Elementary spatial harmonics.
Because, it's this giant kludge of little stick pieces.
It kind of reminds me of that game that we occasionally play, Reach for the Moon.
Oh, with the ladders.
Yes.
You kind of have to stack together and see if you can get it to actually higher, or is it going to...
Depending on the die roll. You have to, touch no more than 2 ladders, or exactly 2 ladders, or something like that. And
brilliant. You roll a die.
It's kind of like reverse Mikado, but with extra rules.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the name in English, but it's a stick game. It's a stick removal game where you're You make a clutch like this, except you remove little sticks.
Yeah,
that
you
it's
can't allow, you only use...
multi-dimensional Jenga,
Sure.
maybe?
No. Well...
With a little element of chaos.
There's a couple games I could think of that would really describe that. One would be Kerplunk, with trying to take the sticks out without letting all the balls fall down. Another one, if just the sticks are the ones falling down, is Suspend, which is a lot of fun. And yeah, it's chaos, especially if you're a little bit tipsy and your motor control is a little funky. Like, ooh, that one can get pretty fun.
So, with no more excuse, Harry Kim has to join her, and he's a little whiny.
Yes. Well,
Right?
I mean, I was going to find that. But yeah, fair enough. You know, it is kind of rude of her to do it like this. I mean, on the other hand, it is his duty cycle now,
Yeah,
so...
recreation time is over.
Exactly.
It's appropriate, and he's surrounded by both Seven and Tuvok. Who
Don't quite understand why the game just couldn't be paused.
you don't do that in chess either.
Yeah,
If you do a proper match, time is a factor.
Right, but there's a...
Oh yeah.
Well, there's a way to do it. Like,
Yes.
basically, the the player whose turn it is, writes down their move and gives it to the referee. At which point the referee stops the clock. Because
the decision has been made.
Decision has been made. So that player whose turn it was
Yes.
doesn't get to... Their move is sealed in.
Yep.
And
the other player doesn't get to think about
Exactly.
it during the interim. See, okay, that's elegant. Although apparently there was no problem in taking lots of time for Harry Kim.
No,
But yeah,
they're not playing against the clock, because like you can see it from the way that Tuvok is sitting there going like, yeah, come on, get on with it. Like, are you still not seeing it? He's a little bit.
he must be enjoying it. Like, oh, this is a great exercise of like suppressing frustration. Oh, look at me
also
doing
be.
such a good job. Patience. I'm learning patience. Oh, how awesome for me. And we learn a bit more about like what Seven retained from her life as a Borg.
Yes.
Because Harry Kim actually asked some questions that a lot of us had since she joined the crew at the start of season 4. It was about 20 episodes by now. And she mentions that...
Each drone's experiences are processed by the collective. Only useful information is retained.
So there's a lot of information in her brain.
Yeah. And Kim's like,
So what do you need the rest of us for?
and you get that.
You get a look!
You get that
She doesn't
look.
say it!
No.
Forget I asked.
Yeah, and it's just like, I mean, of course, like she needs the rest of her. She's only got so many hours in her day, and she needs extra hands. You
Yeah.
know? It's...
And finger blasted while I'm doing other stuff.
I mean, isn't that what the regeneration cycle's for?
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice.
Uh,
More of a socket and plug scenario than
yeah.
a safe.
Might not be entirely just magnetic. You know, there might be some more physical.
Cocky, what am I doing with this? Well, I never know how to edit this stuff when you go like just completely off the wall like this. Cocky, what are you doing? Cocky.
Anyway, the ship is dropped out of warp forcibly. So.
Yes, having been hit by some kind of shockwave. But before they can analyze it...
Hold on. I just lost all my sensor readings. The computer is bringing up some kind of message, but I can't access it.
all the screens go off.
Yep, and we are the Omega symbol is displayed on the screen, and everything is locked until Janeway wanders onto the bridge, pushes a few buttons, routes all sensor data to her ready room, and says, "I will be in my ready room." And
she does the first of several instances where she responds to something that she couldn't possibly have heard because the door was closed before she walks in. Like she says,
"Don't do anything. I'll take care of this."
As the door is opening.
Right.
So is there some kind of...
Is that a response? Isn't that just like her... She gets the message like...
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah.
Because it's Chakotay starts with...
I'm going to get Harry up here to trace the source.
And then she responds...
"Don't do anything. I'll take care of this."
Yeah.
But the door was closed while he was speaking. So she just walks in. "Oh, yeah, whatever you were saying, don't do anything. Just
Exactly.
stop it. Stop it, drop it. Stop, drop, and roll." And Chakotay asked what's going on. And she said, "No, I can't tell you, but I'll have more instructions for you shortly."
Yes.
And that's it. And we go to the credits.
Then we get...
What an opening.
Yeah. It's like something's up and something is up. We know.
Yes. Something's up and something is up. Okay? Well done. It's a form of poetry where you emphasize. I like it. So she walks into her ready room, which is now uncluttered. It's going to get a lot worse in there.
Yeah.
Sealing the doors, giving her command codes. Oh, let's see. Yeah, we get the doctor.
Oh, right, yes. Well,
Gateway 1153 red. Clearance level 10.
Presumably that gets changed whenever you use it.
Yeah,
It's
let's
probably a
hope
one-time
Wesley
password.
isn't around to
Yeah.
record that because he's
Right, yes.
he's got a subservience fetish.
Or what was the security chief on Babylon 5's command release?
Peekaboo.
Yes. I was like, peekaboo?
Would you have guessed it?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, Mr. Garibaldi.
That wasn't Garibaldi.
That's the security.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sorry. Sorry.
But it's,
the way
it's
you,
pronounced
right. The way you say it was like was how what's this?
Londo Molari.
Molari would say like yes.
And she learns from the computer, now that she's unlocked it, that
Sensors have detected the Omega phenomenon within 1.2 light years of this vessel.
Yet later in the episode, they are scanning all planets in a 10 light year radius, and they still can't narrow it down.
yeah.
Yeah.
So apparently you can know that it's there, but not necessarily where it is.
Right, but why go if you already know that it's within 1.2 light years? Why scan 10 light? You think like there can't be that many stars within a 1.2 light year
Yeah,
distance.
it might move. It might be on a moving ship.
Oh, sure. Okay, but yeah, well, fair enough. Yeah.
Oh, did I just undermine you?
Well, not really, because I'm thinking, like, wouldn't you start like, okay, so there is a planet. We know for a fact later on that it is found on a planet.
Yes, but
So-
you don't know that it's stationary yet.
True, but we don't know, I guess. I mean, you'd think that they start with, like, oh, we detected it, and it's like, let's try that planet first, like, the one the closest by. Because nothing's going to be closer by than 1.2 light years. Like,
Oh, we don't know where they're 4 years into their 70,000 light year trip toward Earth. Like, they started out in an area that's about as far from the center of the galaxy as we are, and we're in a very sparse part of the galaxy, right? Our nearest star is
5 light years?
Yeah, then the next one's another 5. It's
Well, but I think it was you who told me that.
Yeah.
So that means they're roughly every 5 light years apart. Like roughly, they're on a roughly 5 light year grid.
Yeah, and then how many stars are there
Right.
within 100 light years? And it turns out the answer is like 100,000. We're really bad at thinking in
Right.
like 3 dimensions. But if they're in a much denser space, where it's maybe less
Sure.
than a light year per star,
Ooh,
then it's just,
That would be very close.
I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know.
Wondering what the sky would look like at night.
It's only 1/5 as or a factor 5 denser. That's not a
No,
lot.
it's a factor 125 denser.
Oh, that's right. See, I just said it.
Yeah.
And you can see her pinching the bridge of her nose when the computer tells her to.
Implement the Omega Directive immediately.
And she goes, oh. The thing is, we actually don't know what the Omega... Well, we kind of do know what it is.
We don't know what it is. The Omega phenomenon and the Omega Directive,
Well,
the
we
Omega symbol.
kind of do learn later what the normal procedure would be. It's like, sit tight, wait for the specialist to arrive.
Yes.
That's pretty much... and she has to, like, now improvise.
Yeah. I'm sure that the directive, like, contains some contingencies as well. Like,
You'd think so, yeah.
all other Federation values are rescinded for the duration of this mission, including, like, the sanctity of your lives. Right? The protection of other species, the defense of innocence, all of that is superseded by the need
to destroy the Omega particle.
So Chakotay is handing out work assignments and trying to suppress
speculation
rumors.
Rampant.
Yeah, exactly. 7 complains that
It will be difficult to complete the task without more data.
And then B'Elanna asks, does it have anything to do with the Omega Directive?
Ah, yes.
Because Scuttlebutt sort of made it out. I love that it happened anyway.
So there must have been something like known about the fact of the existence of the Omega Directive. There might be one of those little things that are whispered about, and of course everybody's seen the Omega symbol on the screen. So there must be some...
Someone must have had like a drunk wine aunt who like said a bit more than she was cleared to do during a party and overheard the words Omega Directive.
Yeah.
And it's very smart what Chakotay does. Like he does a bit. I like how he goes sort of back and forth between very Starfleet and very Maquis in treating people. Because when she asks this leading question, Chakotay responds with,
"What have you heard?"
And he's just like, okay, now I'm fishing because I'm also curious,
of course.
But I also want to plug this leak.
Yeah, exactly. It's like who's talking and what have they been saying. 7 shows apparently knowledge.
Yeah, because he says to 7 that the captain wants to see you, and she says,
I thought she might.
Yeah.
Right, yes. So Captain Janeway asks, what do you know about Omega particles? And she's like...
Everything you do, most likely.
Yeah. It's like, because, and she's figured out, of course, if like
The Borg assimilated Starfleet captains. You would possess all of their knowledge.
That's correct.
So she knows what the Omega Directive is, and, well, she knows a good bit more about it than the Federation does as well, you would think.
Yes,
Yeah.
because the Borg apparently have their own relationship with these Omega particles. Now, what we get over the course of quite a few scenes is that this is a molecule, so it's a substance that contains tremendous energy.
Yes.
A single Omega molecule contains the same energy as a warp core.
Yeah, now this is probably where popular mechanics is grumbling a little bit, because where does that energy come from?
Yeah, sure, yeah.
When you synthesize or create some molecular structure, it usually costs as much energy as it can.
Yes, well, with the exception of fusion. But...
Yes, but that's subatomic, isn't it?
Yes.
Right, so I don't know what the molecular structure has to do with that. That's
it's a bit. I have more plasma vents about the whole Omega molecule thing, but yes. Okay, so we learned that
On one occasion, we were able to create a single Omega molecule. We kept it stable for 1/1,000,000th of a nanosecond before it destabilized.
Yeah.
I think that's shorter than the Planck length, but I'm not entirely certain on that one.
Chief, is that shorter than Planck time?
Okay, so this is a topic that's just really out of my depth and not really my thing, because this starts to get a lot more theoretical, and I don't have the brain for this. It's not my forte. But so Planck time in a multiple of a second is 10 to the negative 44th power. So it's the presumed shortest theoretical measurable time interval, not necessarily the shortest increment of time, but just the measurable time interval. And that's, again, theoretical. So 10 to the negative 44. However, a nanosecond is a billionth of a second, or 10 to the 9th power, and a picosecond is a trillionth time, 10 to negative 12th power. So I'm gonna say Planck time is longer. Yes, I'm gonna say yes, it is shorter than Planck time. I think that's right. I don't know this very well. This is out of my depth. I'm gonna say yes because I can't think about. My head is not made for this. My head is not made for this. I'm turning into the guy from Scanners, and my head's just going to explode.
And Planck time, K, that is the
shortest unit of time possible.
Where it's possible for something to happen, and any shorter than that, and it doesn't happen.
Something like that, yes. I never really grokked the concept exactly, but yes, that seems...
I don't know exactly where it comes from. I find it related to the term quantum leap.
Well, it's not the Planck length. I mean, that's the smallest distance two things can be apart. And I mean, people in some say, yes, they're there, because that's the resolution of the holographic simulation that we're living in. But, it's...
Similarly, like, quantum leap is the smallest distance that a thing can move without standing still. So I always bristle when I see some promotional material. Oh, this product is a quantum leap in technology. So it's the smallest possible
change that they could have had, yes.
Which was once used successfully for, I think, like macOS Snow Lion, which had, or Snow Leopard, I think it was, which promoted 0 new features, right? Because it was technological refinement of the previous version of the operating system. So calling that a quantum leap.
Right.
Yeah, we're essentially staying exactly where we were, except massively improved under the hood. Thought that was brilliant.
And, of course, the James Bond film, A Quantum of Solace.
Oh, yes. Well, a quantum is just an amount.
Right, but it's a very small amount.
Is it, by definition?
Well, that's what we just like.
That's
quantum
how we
leap.
use it now. Yeah.
So that's how I always interpreted a quantum of solace. The tiniest bit of solace that could be achieved.
Oh, I'm reminded of A Quantity of Desire, the excellent fantasy novel by friend of the show, Rugger, who's recommended some episodes, which I did the audiobook for.
Oh, very nice, yes. And what about that?
It has the word quant in it.
Oh, okay.
It's a quant one. Which, don't know that that's a great soundbite. It has the quant in it. Oh. So the Borg did experiments on Omega, advancing their knowledge significantly over what Starfleet has.
Right, yes, that was what I was talking about. Like,
couldn't go any further.
They managed it, and they never could get the ore.
Yes.
So it's like...
We didn't have enough boronite ore left to synthesize more. But the knowledge we gained allowed us to refine our theories.
Yes. So they've not been able to... So apparently it's like synthesized from an ore.
or that's what they used to work with Omega. Maybe there's other ways to do it.
Sure.
Borodite comes up in season 5 of Star Trek Discovery.
Right.
So plays a role in there. An interesting observation here is what she says, that they refined their theories, where previously, like, the Borg were accused of, like, they don't innovate, they only assimilate.
Right, yes.
But apparently in some circumstances, they do
yes.
like, perform scientific investigations and experimentation and innovation on their own, something that the Borg are culturally, not really inclined to, or known for is the right way to put it.
Yes, Janeway asks,
how many Borg were sacrificed during this experiment?
Yeah, 29 vessels, 600,000, but that's not important. It's like...
Yeah, and it is important to me, says Janeway. And this is fantastic. So this sets up the conflict between Seven and Janeway.
Yeah.
And they're both very respectful of each other's positions, and they're both very firm in their own value system. Because Seven believes that...
those orders are the result of Starfleet's ignorance and fear.
Yeah.
Which is very valid. And an earlier version of this script had Seven listing off a set of examples of times when Janeway had, like, favorite scientific curiosity over safety.
Right, yes.
Right, hunting down coffee in a nebula and crossing contested space for sometimes for their own convenience and sometimes for their mission, and often just from curiosity.
Yes. Chakotay makes the same point later about he asks, like, for a scientific person, for a scientifically minded captain, why are we doing this?
Yeah.
But yeah, so they come to a détente where...
and sensors have detected the molecule.
So it would appear. But we have to confirm it.
We.
You're going to help me carry out the directive.
Because essentially it comes to the point, like, okay, are we going to do this together, or I'm going to confine you to your cargo bay?
And she's even like, yeah, maybe you should.
Yes. Because I am going to get into this with an entirely different expectation than you are.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to neutralize this threat, Seven, with or without your help.
And she says she'll assist her.
Yes.
Which surprises Janeway.
I have waited many years to observe this molecule firsthand. I will not deny myself that experience.
Right, yes.
Which is our first clue that, whoa, this is not how we know Seven, right?
No.
She's not, we don't see her motivated like this. Which is fascinating. And she accepts it, Janeway accepts it at face value. She just places trust. So still playing her card very close to her chest, the captain goes to the doctor and asks him to synthesize a pretty radical drug.
Erythrosine? What for?
I'm going on an away mission.
What are you planning to do? Stroll through a supernova?
Something like that.
Which must be done under supervision of a doctor, which...
And she just tells him, no, we're not doing that. I'm bypassing the regulations, and you're going to do it for me anyway.
Yep.
The Omega Directive, whatever that might be.
And I love that it's super classified and literally no one's supposed to know about it, and still it makes its way through the
scuttlebutt, yes.
Because scuttlebutt is do you know what scuttlebutt is?
Ooh, no, not specifically.
So a butt is a barrel.
Oh, right.
And it's got a hole in it below the waterline, so you can, right? So it's got a little corked hole.
Yeah.
It's scuttled, like scuttling a ship. You put a hole below the waterline.
You mean a bunghole, yes.
That's not the one that I heard.
It's what they're called. A bung is a stopper that you put in a barrel.
Oh, there you go.
So
yeah,
that's a bunghole. Kim and Tuvok are working on the gravimetric torpedo.
And Harry is still being gossipy, and he's trying to entice Tuvok into speculating with him.
What's an isoton?
I don't know. I think ISO is maybe 20.
Oh, no, that's isometric is...
Oh, no, you're right. Icosahedron.
Yeah.
Icosa is 20. But there was also such a thing as an isopod.
I thought it was a dodecahedron.
Dodecahedron is 12.
Oh, right. Yes, of course. Yes.
2, deca, 10.
Yes.
And that's about as far as it goes. And then, I mean, we could ask the chief. Should we just ask the chief?
Yes.
What's ISO?
Okay, so ISO really is derived from the Greek meaning equals, but it doesn't really mean anything. It's credited to Andre Bermanis with the invention of the term, but then basically all the technical manuals that try to make a definition of it don't comply with another part of canon. It's just kind of nonsense. They just kind of like made up this term that sounds good, and then like if you try and make any kind of use out of it, it doesn't make any sense because it's used as both a measure of energy, it's a measure of mass. It's kind of all over the place, honestly. So it's interesting, but yeah, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just It's just, hey, it sounds good. And it does sound good. Isoton sounds pretty good. Like, that's a good, like, technobabble, treknobabble thing to use.
Well, it might be an ISO standard.
I know. He's probably coming back with like 500 definitions. And it's no, I'm not talking about the synthetic life that was mentioned in Tron Legacy, which we're all really upset never got a sequel.
Kaki, I never know if I should be, like, upset that I'm so predictable that you know exactly what I'm thinking of when you mention ISO immediately, or if you just know me so well that you know that's what I'm going to think of first. It's one of the two, but I can't tell which one it is right now.
Yes, I'm just going to go with my headcanon that it's like an ISO standard ton. So we don't have metric or imperial tons or gross tons, or it's just an ISO ton.
Oh, like it's Space Above and Beyond, where they measure distances in MSKs, which are defined exclusively once as megastatute kilometers.
Yes.
Which I
don't
know. It's just a very lot.
What are we planning to do? Blow up a small planet?
I don't know.
This warhead isn't standard issue.
Which Harry is very curious about until the captain announces...
Increase the charge to 80 isotons.
Yeah. This sounds like a really serious weapon to just be banding about while you're just casually increasing the yield of your photon torpedo.
Yes, also the shuttle is being prepped to withstand temperatures up to 12,000 Kelvin, which is...
Yeah.
Okay, sure, why?
A lot.
Right, no, but I mean, it's definitely a lot, but they're like, it never really becomes clear why they're taking all these precautions. It seems that that Janeway is going to go with this shuttle and bring Seven along to blow up the source of the...
Yes, that's the current plan.
Yes.
And so she needs a very robust ship. She's got this erythrosine, which would keep her alive in the face of tremendous radiation, long enough to complete the mission, because apparently computers can't be trusted to do it. And when the captain goes off for the next thing of her plan, which he doesn't share, Harry goes on with speculating. Ensign Hickman thinks it's species 8472 because
there's an opening in fluidic space, and Captain Janeway has to shut it down.
But you want to know what I think? And Tuvok says,
no.
Doesn't stop him though.
No, exactly.
I think there's a Type 6 protostar out there, and the captain's planning on detonating it and opening up a wormhole to the Alpha Quadrant.
Which is so in character for him. Like, nobody wants to get home as much as Harry Kim.
No, I guess
consistently.
He wants his bloody promotion.
I mean, Ensign is a fine rank. Like, the way it's presented in Star Trek, like, it's almost like Ensign is just the starting rank.
It is.
Kind of is, but you are an officer.
Right.
Right? You are a duty officer as an ensign. You're not a cadet. You're not
one of the NCOs. Yeah.
And I think potentially even have, like, command authority. I mean, he's an ensign, and he's a division head on the bridge.
Right.
Right? He's responsible for operations. People, possibly lieutenants, report to him.
Okay. But lieutenant is higher, outranks ensign.
Yeah, objectively, yes, but...
Janeway is explaining to Chakotay what's going to happen. Like,
one of two things is going to happen. Either Seven and I will succeed on our mission and return within a few days, or your long-range sensors will detect a large explosion in subspace.
And if you do so, GTFO.
Yep, and you're the captain now.
Yeah.
Look at me, you're the captain now.
Exactly.
And Chakotay, okay, now that we're alone in a room, I'm going to have to do my first officer job and tell you that...
I always thought that Starfleet was run by duty-crazy bureaucrats, but I find it hard to believe that even they would order a captain to go on a suicide mission.
And I think this whole scene is really brilliant because he's got very clear arguments that he lays out in a very structured way without, like, assailing her authority and ingenuity.
Of course, yeah.
But, like, his first thing here is...
This shuttle excursion is your idea, isn't it?
But she admits, oh, well, I've had to, like, improvise considering the situation.
He still wants her to tell him more, but, like, both of them know that she can't. She says...
If it were a simple matter of trust, I wouldn't hesitate to tell you.
Because that's where he's sort of stuck. He doesn't want to abandon his captain, but he also wants to obey these rules that he doesn't know about. So the argument that he's trying to lay out is the best adaptation you can make to these rules is to involve your crew. That increases your chances of success. Right. It means that everyone can help you. And he's guiding her on a path toward seeing his point of view. I mean, she keeps trying to say that...
Starfleet didn't exactly have our predicament in mind, did it? Lost in the Delta Quadrant with no backup.
She's used to having to adapt, and she's used to, like, taking that personal responsibility. Right. I think possibly also because she imposed that responsibility on the rest of the crew when she defended the caretaker array.
Right, yes.
Rather than sending everyone home. She says that, like, the only way out she sees is...
I can't ignore the orders. But I won't ask the crew to risk their lives because of my obligation.
Yes. And
that's where you're wrong.
Yeah, doesn't work like that.
Because the Voyager may be alone out here, but you're not.
Yeah. And that convinces her. So assemble the troops.
Which I love.
Go to the ready room, where she does a little bit of explanation, like you've seen the symbol.
Very dramatic.
Yes, very much so.
Oh, you've all seen this symbol.
Omega. The last letter of the Greek alphabet.
Oh.
And it's, yes, we know. We've all had, we're all tryhards. We know that how that works. Unfortunately, B'Elanna's being snubbed by not being allowed to be here. And yes, I know why that was.
Yes. Oh, you saw that in the trivia?
Yes. Well, actually, I came across it on my own.
Oh, very good. Because Roxanne Dawson, she had 2 scenes to film, except she went into labor immediately after filming the first one.
Right, yes.
And so she was not here during this briefing because she was off having a baby.
Yeah.
Oh, speaking of the caretaker array, that's the graphic we see on screen. It's a photo manipulation of a picture of, I think, the caretaker array.
Okay.
Which is shown in a very sort of dilapidated state.
Right.
Because she talked about a scientist called Keteract, which is kind of a cool name. We don't know where the scientist is from.
No.
Keteract managed to synthesize a single molecule particle of Omega. But it only existed for a fraction of a second before it destabilized.
Yeah, there's a hole blasted in it, and there's glow coming from inside. There's that
similar glow
light
that we
blue Cherenkov blue.
Yes, which you wouldn't see in a vacuum of space.
No, well, maybe it's a subspace. Maybe it's just related to it. And the rest of the crew sort of know a little bit about it. The Lantarus system. Yeah,
hey, that's no warp zone. It's like, but that's a natural phenomenon. Yeah, it's not. Sorry.
And this is so brilliant. Like this sets up why Omega is so dangerous. Because if this detonates, that whole region of space, warp travel is impossible.
Perhaps,
therefore,
maybe
spacefaring civilizations.
Yeah, and if it's enough, then it's even the entire quadrant.
Yeah. Nobody gets to invent interstellar travel. Anyone who has interstellar travel
loses it. Yeah.
Yep. Or we're never coming home.
Because subspace is destroyed.
Which is a very dramatic thing to say. And this was the point where our friend Solly mentioned, hey, it would be nice to have some mushrooms on board because the Discovery has a non-warp subspace traversing mode of propulsion.
Well, that's impulse power, isn't it?
It has the spore drive.
Oh, right, of course. Yes.
The radical, experimental, and unique drive system. But yeah, if subspace is destroyed, who knows whether there's an access point to the mycelial network.
Isn't the mycelial network also through subspace?
Yes. It's a species of organism
that... so that would also be destroyed.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. That would be the risk.
Yeah.
Only one way to find out. Send Discovery to the Lantarus sector in the future and see if they can warp out or spin out or dash out.
Yeah, that's whatever you want to call it.
The displacement activated spore hub drive, which I'm pretty sure was meant to be, we can call it dash drive. Yeah, that's cool. And then nobody says that because it's kind of naff.
Very good. Yes.
It began with species 262. They were primitive, but their oral history referred to a powerful substance which could burn the sky. The Borg were intrigued, which led them to species 263.
Yes, because Seven has asked the captain to join her, and the captain is at first a little dismayed. Hey, you're working on a containment chamber. I
told you to work on something else, yes.
And Seven says, yes, I was concerned that the warhead wouldn't work, and so this containment chamber can actually neutralize it. And
right.
Here's to Borg ingenuity.
Not a thing that the Borg are often credited with.
No.
And yeah, they have a little conversation, and we learn more Borg lore, which is fascinating.
Blore.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, we learn some blore. That's going to be weird if we ever mention it in the future without context.
Yes.
Okay. Because they assimilated a primitive species that had a myth that they were interested in.
Yes, and they found another one, and then after a few more species, they finally found one with some actual scientific proof.
Which is both fascinating and totally horrifying, the idea that the Borg went on this campaign of enslaving planets, whole cultures, just out of curiosity for this mythology.
I mean, that's, if anything, that's a better argument than the usual reason they do it.
Really?
Is it? Isn't it?
They usually do it because someone has something that they want.
Right.
which
Well,
is,
they're full of themselves and they believe that everybody should be Borg.
No. They think that everyone would be better if they were Borg,
Right.
but not everyone is worthy of the gift.
Oh.
As we learn in Voyager, there are several species that, like, their survival strategy has been to, like, disassemble their warp engines and just make themselves unattractive. Because the Borg skips loads of species that we just think are not going to add anything to our perfection.
Right. Oh, I didn't know that. I thought they were just like, everybody should be Borg.
I mean, ultimately, that's the perfection of the universe.
Right. And the perfection which they apparently believe to be in Omega.
Yeah. And the reverence with which she describes it, that it's not just something that's culturally important to the Borg, but therefore also to every individual, including her.
Right.
Like, you never think about the Borg having cultural values that result in motivations, because...
I didn't realize you had such a strong scientific curiosity.
Not curiosity. Desire.
Desire.
Basically, it's Borg religion.
Yeah.
As Janeway later asks, it's like...
What is it the Borg say? That Omega is perfect?
Yes.
Is that a theory or a belief?
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Which is really excellent.
Which shuts up Seven in a way that rarely happens.
Yeah, she's very glad that she gets interrupted by a bridge to the captain, because they found the location of these particles, and there's a...
It's a moon. Of course it's a moon. It's always a moon.
There's a pre-warp civilization on the outermost planet.
Yep.
And they wisely built a research station on a moon, which is a desolate crater.
Over 300,000 square kilometers destroyed.
Yes, and yet the building at the center is still standing.
Yeah.
And, the containment field is still there.
Yeah. Oh, am I going to, like, with the shields? Like, it might have been ecological catastrophe. It might have been a largely subterranean detonation that destroyed other structures. And this was
it's not. You can clearly see that there's like a radial outblast from the central building. Not so well in this shot, but later on you get a close up.
Yeah. Or is that the research station? Does it have this radial structure?
Well, I think they're scorch marks, or at least what they're meant to be, like from the explosion. Okay. So you can see it better in a little bit later.
But they're detecting a few dozen life signs.
Yes,
and it's worth investigating.
We still can't tell if there's any Omega molecules remaining. We can't tell that.
Assemble the rescue team and have them report to sickbay for erythrosine inoculations. Tell the doctor to prepare for casualties.
And Chakotay notices, you implicitly just mentioned yourself in this team. And she says, yes. Okay,
because we are still running on Omega Directive rules.
Oh, we get, like, I always like a sort of blasted out wreckage. And Voyager does it really, really well. Like, you've got these beautiful light beams coming in, although frustratingly the light beams are coming from two different directions, which suggests that maybe there are two suns, or maybe it's...
maybe they're not external lights. It could just be like broken light fixtures. But yes, again, there was an area of 300,000 square kilometers is being destroyed, and yet the people standing right next to it are just like have minor injuries. It's a bit weird.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't care. I don't care. They have a conversation with a person from a species whom they never even asked. They never learned their names.
Oh, no,
Keep
you're right.
calling them the aliens.
Yes.
Which is also actually kind of cool because it just doesn't matter in this case.
It doesn't, no. I mean, strictly speaking, they're not even supposed to be there because Prime Directive.
But this is General Order 0.
Pre-warp civilization. We're not supposed to interact with these people, which Janeway actually literally tells the Tuvok, no Prime Directive.
Yep.
Of this mission, the Prime Directive is rescinded. Let's get this over with.
Yeah.
She's so firm and severe.
Yeah.
In this
and you can hear she doesn't like it.
No, I love that. But it's like, I'm putting up with this, and you have to as well.
Yep.
To his credit, this scientist who they're rescuing from under the rubble immediately answers all their questions without going, what's wrong with your face?
Yeah, where are you from?
Whoa, what do you have in the middle of your face? What's that for?
Aliens. Yes.
Oh, you're one of those pinkos. Gross.
Much to Kim's chagrin, Seven has organized a Borg-style research work team. Everybody gets new designations: 6 of 10, 2 of 10,
3 of 10,
whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
And she says that, the crew can actually be quite efficient when they're organized properly.
Yeah.
So she must be, like, attaining some kind of efficiency that they normally don't display.
I guess, yeah.
Harry Kim is very upset with that because as soon as Neelix arrives with some isolinear chips. He goes, oh, I'll install those. Wait. But you're not supposed to do that. Wasn't somebody else supposed to do that? Oh, God. And he's so frustrated.
I'm not going to waste time just because Seven wants to turn this team into her own private collective.
And yeah. Because you're right. Yeah, she gives him a field demotion.
Yes.
To his great surprise.
From 6 of 10, he goes to 2 of 10.
Since when did the Borg pull rank?
And
A Starfleet protocol I adapted.
yeah.
Yes.
Adaptation, certainly of Borg quality. And he complains to Chakotay, who goes, well, this seems to be a well-run department.
Yeah, it's working fine as far out from where I'm standing.
It was her job to get this done. It's getting done. It's your job
because they're working on a containment field or a
harmonic resonance chamber,
something to destroy the Omega particles. Right, which is kind of okay. So the Borg managed to create one, and it existed for an infinitesimal short period of time.
Yeah,
the Federation managed to create some, we don't know how many, which presumably existed even shorter than that. And here we have a alien race who managed to create several 100,000, or how much is it?
200 million.
And stable.
Well, clearly not.
Well, stable enough, because it's like in their containment field, and it's like,
yeah,
it's still there. It's not blowing up. It sounds stable to me. I mean, it obviously requires active control.
Yeah, which I'm presuming is active control based on rules that they don't know.
Right.
And apparently they've hit on a situation where you can have 200 million of them and they can be stable for hours, days, weeks.
Yes.
And then for some reason that we don't know, they'll suddenly destabilize and explode. And it can happen at any moment because we don't understand the rules by which it's operating.
Right.
You just happen to... I understand the question, but I really like when this occurs in science fiction because it mirrors a lot of experiences in real science, like the Epstein drive in the series The Expanse, based on the novels by... Chief, who were the novels by?
Yes, so The Expanse was written by James S.A. Corey, which is a joint pen name for Daniel Abraham and Ty Frank. Have to give a shout out to my fellow Beltalotas out there.
Thank you. Which had this idea that if you have an ion drive, there's apparently a particular tuning where it becomes crazy efficient.
Right.
That you can't learn from any of the other tunings until you get there.
And you just happen to find the right setting. Yeah.
In Fringe, there was once the metaphor was used of the Long Island iced tea.
All right, yes.
Which if you take these components in these exact proportions, it tastes just like iced tea. But if you get any of them wrong, it doesn't.
Yes.
So you can't be in a situation where, that tastes a little bit like iced tea, and then inch your way closer. No, you have to get it right to get that result.
I've always wondered about that because, the Long Island iced teas that I've always had have been just like very boozy and never really associated the taste with iced tea very much. Yeah.
Maybe by the time you've had 9 of them,
but also,
you'll be convinced of anything.
Sure, but also it would greatly depend on which kind of... I mean, the ingredients are rum, tequila... I always forget a few.
Poor music, please. He's doing a recipe.
Basically, the 5 white spirits. And not white spirits, but 5 colors.
Clear
spirits.
Yeah,
That's what white spirits is something else entirely. Don't put that in your drink.
Whoa, okay.
So, yes, rum, tequila, vodka, Contro, and... It always escapes me which the last one is.
Chief?
So the recipe for Long Island iced tea is half an ounce of vodka, half an ounce of rum, half an ounce of gin, half an ounce of tequila, half an ounce of triple sec, an ounce of sweet and sour mix, and an ounce of cola with a lemon slice. Jeez, that's so much. There's no wonder why when I had like 3 of these, I realized I made a terrible, terrible mistake.
Thank you.
But
Are you mixing one right now?
You know, it's funny you mention that, Cocky, because I know in writing there's the adage of write drunk, edit sober, and maybe I'm thinking that for podcasting it should be the reverse. Podcast sober, edit drunk. Let's see how off the walls I can make these damn episodes.
Those come from different brands, so there's always going to be flavor differences between them.
Well, that's why you can always get a vintage cocktail, as I almost nearly spent a fucking fortune in Rome. But I was like,
oh, yes.
I wanted one Negroni at 10 p.m. and we found a hotel and they had I see a Negroni on the menu here. Oh, they must have missed a decimal point because there's no way that it costs 210 euros. But yes, it does, because they still had like vintage 1960s bottles of Martini Rosso. So you could get it tasting like it did in the 1960s at phenomenal expense.
Oh, I wonder if there's like anybody. There must be still some Kino Leo kicking around somewhere.
Kino Leo is a great example, right?
Yeah, if you find a bottle of that, you've got it made, because then you can make an original Vesper.
Yes. Now, when was that banned? Because
I don't think it was banned. I think they just stopped making it.
But quinine is a bad substance.
No, it's not. It's in tonic water.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh. I had it in my head that it was, that it was like right up there with radium, and
no.
decided not to.
No.
Stopped making Kino Leo.
Yeah. It's just brand quit. Like, it's not being made anymore. So yeah, unfortunately, there are substitutes which will get you close. I have some here in my cabinet here, but in my boozy-torium.
Oh, we've got a new segment. This is Kay's Cocktails.
Wow. Okay.
You've got Kay's Pound Town.
Yes.
And Cocktails.
Cocktails.
Yay.
Well.
Speaking of cocktails, the Doctor is whipping one up to inoculate everyone against radiation, but Seven
shows up and wants to talk to the scientists.
He has knowledge I require.
He also happens to be barely conscious. Come back in an hour.
Unacceptable.
Unavoidable.
So what did you do? It's like, well, we just used its own harmonic frequency to create a containment field, and that works just fine.
Yeah. She says, whoa, that should have been enough to stabilize it. Obviously it wasn't, but she does credit him with being innovative.
Right. And clearly it's like they still have it kind of stable.
And now we get another conflict.
Yes.
Because this scientific discovery is an existential necessity for the species.
Right. We never learn how or why.
The only thing we learn is like,
our resources are nearly gone. The future of my people depends on this discovery.
Yep.
Right. They may just not have any other energy sources on their planet to become multiplanetary.
Accuses them of being small-minded and destroying what they don't understand. And yes, and he's definitely not going to explain any of it. It's just like, he's very accusatory towards Seven.
Yeah.
And like, you don't understand, and I'm not going to explain it to you either.
Well, she says, on the contrary,
I understand perfectly.
Oh, yes.
Because she does understand.
She is operating against her own desires at this point. She's like doing what the captain says, but yeah, still.
I see what you mean about the scorch marks now, because the next Jeef has.
Yes.
So maybe that's it. Maybe it's directional. Maybe there were like what looks like about 80 like fairly linear blasts.
Right.
If you just happen to be in the shadow of one of those blasts, you're okay.
Sure, yeah. I'll accept that. Well, no, I won't, but yeah.
The captain's getting her hands dirty because there's a bulkhead that they can't phaser through, but so she and Tuvok can just lift it.
Yes, okay. So that was fun. Sorry, that's funny as So we get this.
We've disabled the locking mechanism.
Narrow your phaser beams to cut through the inner seal.
Inadvisable.
We'd risk penetrating the containment field. Well, in that case, we're just going to have to open the door.
Yeah. Get on the floor. Everybody walk the dinosaur. They lift this panel away and they look inside, and she immediately goes, "Oh well, this is even more than I thought."
Yes. Well, we know that it's 200 million now, and yes, it's quite a lot of stuff. And like the torpedo isn't going to be able to cut that.
I love this. There's this bright blue light in her face.
Yeah.
It's so dramatic. I love it when they do things with color just to tell a story.
Right, yes.
Right? Here's a color you've never seen before. We're going to use it like this. This light is going to tell you everything you need to know, the danger that you're in, the majesty, the awe that they're all facing. It's the only time you're going to see this.
Yes, I mean, this is not something that a normal person would get to see very often. It's kind of like gazing into, as you said before, the Cherenkov radiation of a nuclear reactor as it fires up. Yeah,
which occurs when light transitions from one medium to another, where in the second medium, light speed is slower.
Yes, so it's akin to a sonic boom, but then
then for photons.
Yes.
Yeah, which are waves or particles.
Yes.
And slash or. Yeah.
Correct.
And Tuvok, the scientist. Oh, sorry. No, he's not. He's the tactical officer, of course.
Right, yes.
We just associate Vulcans with science because of Spock.
But he does say this.
A curious statement from a woman of science.
I'm also a woman who occasionally knows when to quit.
And you see the look on Tuvok's face.
No, you fucking
since when? It's like
fucking when? I've known you 16 years. But we see her resolve. She won't take a risk for the entire quadrant. It would be arrogant, irresponsible. And she has this fantastic line that I love.
The final frontier has some boundaries that shouldn't be crossed.
Bam!
And we're looking at one. Yes.
Amazing, right?
I mean, okay, so I can see part of the point that 7 makes, which is like clearly it is possible to contain this. And yes, the risks are tremendous.
Yeah.
But I'm sure that people that are like, in our current day and age, there are people who feel exactly the same way about nuclear energy.
Yes.
It's like, no, the risk, it's simply not worth the risk. And it depends entirely where on the spectrum of risk, reward, and knowledge you are, whether or not this is, we find this an acceptable risk. It's like, especially in the face of nuclear power, we're dealing with future contamination. But it's like, the amount of material is very, very small.
Yeah.
It literally, it would,
And responsible containment is possible and not terribly difficult, but if it fails,
then
the consequences are dire for nature. So
yes.
Like which degree of risk and responsibility are you willing to balance? Famously during the Manhattan Project, there was some question about whether it would be safe to perform a nuclear detonation at all, or whether there would be chain reaction.
If this line and that line ever meet, then like it's an Oppenheimer. There's like he's drawing 2 lines and like we haven't quite calculated how these 2 graphs run, but if these lines cross, we're fucked.
Yeah, yeah, because then the atmosphere catches fire.
Yes,
and it would be an unstoppable chain reaction.
Yes. By the time they were actually ready to set the thing off, they knew it wasn't going to happen. But it was a genuine concern.
I mean, in so much as you can know anything for sure when you haven't tried it yet.
No.
But it exists, and like, which degree of certainty are you willing to accept?
Yes, 7 is still working on her big white egg to cook off the Omega particles.
But she's made some modifications, and she's made it possible to implement the alien scientist solution.
Yes, she's combined it with her Borg knowledge, and she is all about it because she wants to see the God particle.
And Chakotay questions that.
I have modified this chamber.
Those weren't your orders. The captain wants Omega eliminated.
Yes.
And now it's her trying to convince Chakotay of her beliefs. And I think she's been very clever in selecting Chakotay, because she knows she's not going to convince Janeway. But Chakotay might convince Janeway if she can convince Chakotay, because her argument has an aspect of spirituality that he is able to respect and relate to. Because she shows him this model, this demonstration from, hey, this can actually work with the scientific knowledge that we now have. I believe that it's possible to work. But Chakotay says it's a simulation, and
one mistake and no one will be around for a second try.
Yep, but I believe I can do it.
And she makes 2 more arguments. One of them is that she's been aboard the ship for 9 months and she's never made a personal request.
Yeah.
Please.
Which is huge.
True.
That's something worth considering.
Yes, I mean, it's always worth considering, of course, but, it's like she should also realize that, like, this is, it goes, like, literally against the Starfleet's, up until now, most secret directive.
Yep. Which she already knew about when she came aboard.
She did, yes.
She's fully briefed, she's completely informed, and she's fully prepared to follow these orders.
Yes.
And she wants one more opportunity for consideration.
Yes, because she believes it can be done safely.
And specifically to Chakotay.
Commander, you are a spiritual man.
That's right.
If you had the chance to see your God, your great spirit, what would you do?
And yes, you would.
I'd pursue it with all my heart.
But for now, orders stand. I will. He says, like, okay, I will tell the captain about this, but proceed as ordered so far until further notice, which
7 is completely happy with.
Yeah,
like that was the outcome she was hoping for.
Yeah.
She has very realistic expectations.
They are running out of time, however, because alien ships are approaching and will arrive in 4 minutes.
I dislike the use of alien throughout this because this is their home.
I know, right?
They're on their planet. They're on their moon.
Yes, that's always the argument in Star Trek.
Yeah,
like,
you're the aliens.
Half the time, you're the aliens.
Yeah.
And I believe I've gone on this rant before. It's like to boldly go where no one has gone before, except there's other people there. They live there.
Yeah,
it's like, they live.
Columbus discovered America to the great surprise of all the Americans.
Who had no idea where they'd been living up until that point.
Oh, amazing.
Funny that.
Oh, God. There's an apocryphal story about where the name of the Indonesian island of Celebes comes from.
Okay.
And the story, as it goes, was that I think it was Portuguese colonizing explorers arrived on Celebes, and the captain hoisted himself in his armor, fully expecting to be worshipped as a god, as he believed so many of his peers had been when they were greeted by primitives. So he landed his crew ashore and was surprised that everybody just kept living their lives and doing their things and greeting them. Oh, hello. and just moving on, despite having never seen a white person before. He was very confused, and he kept he did the sort of explorer colonizer thing of just talking to people in his own language and expecting them to answer, and then using whatever they said to interpret it. Like celebesi is I'm smithing iron in the local language, according to this apocryphal story.
Yeah.
So when he asked, "Where are we?" that was a smith who just explained, "Oh, you're probably curious what I'm doing here. Let me explain it to you."
So, yes, they have only one shot at it, and they are setting up a pattern enhancers, and they are preparing the thing.
So all the Omega substance can now be beamed into the reaction, into the sort of harmonizing chamber, which glows blue. It's fucking gorgeous.
Yeah, it lights up fantastically, and yes, 7 says...
The Omega molecules are stable. Transport was successful.
So yes, okay, now the ship goes GTFO, full impulse.
Yeah, and now it's a straight-up chase. They're being hunted by 2 ships, 2 sublight ships. Why they don't make a quick warp jump, I don't know, but maybe that's unadvisable.
I can't remember. The explosions broke subspace in this area.
Very good.
Yes.
So they have no technological advantage.
Also, they don't know if, at least I would have very strong concerns whether or not it would be advisable to go to warp when you're having Omega particles.
Yeah. Yeah, that's also maybe
sounds like the kind of thing you want to investigate. This stuff destroys subspace. What happens if we jump into subspace while we have it on board?
Okay, you don't want to ask me that, because my answer is only one way to find out.
That's wrong, though. There are more different ways to find out. We can research this without just taking it to the test of... Anyway.
Well, this is the exact argument that comes to a head now when Janeway goes down to the sort of cargo bay where this has been set up, because Chakotay, true to his word, tells Janeway, hey, 7 made a very convincing argument to me about the ability to...
That she can stabilize it, yes.
Yeah.
And as Janeway immediately goes investigate, and 11% of the molecules have already been neutralized, but here...
Then you will allow me to stabilize the remaining molecules.
You know I can't do that.
And they go through this same cycle again. And 7's resolve and compliance is really awesome here.
Yeah.
And it's reflected in the captain's trust. Because the captain says, she literally says...
I don't care if you can make it sing and dance. We're getting rid of it.
Which 7 thinks is...
Foolish decision. He has his mind to make. Now step aside.
Yeah.
7 goes I could have done this. Unlike Data.
Yeah, she says, I could have done it without your permission. And, well... I
still can.
Yeah. And I should have done it, but I free.
And the captain says you won't. They have this trust in one another and the system that they share.
Because she is not going to take even the slightest risk of this stuff coming to detonation here. Well, which is kind of weird because apparently you can blow it up with a torpedo, but
a specific weapon that they've designed for this purpose.
Yeah.
So they know one way to safely blow it up that doesn't result in terrible.
So 18% has been destroyed. Okay, so we have to get at least down to 40-50% at least is the most we can neutralize with the torpedo. So let's call it 60%, and 70 will do because
I think if you look at the actual dialogue, it's a little bit more
I'm pretty sure I'm right. It starts with how many molecules would we neutralize with the torpedo?
Yes, if we no.
Oh, sorry, with the harmonic frequency. Yes,
with the harmonic frequency. If we use that, and she goes, well, that would destroy the chamber. We'd only be able to do it once, and we'd be able to.
That's good. And then she says
40 or 50%.
That's good enough. And then later they say okay, well, 60%. We need 60%, and then yeah.
Okay, so here's what I'm choosing to believe. Is when we jettison this chamber, it's going to continue operating for a few more seconds.
Okay.
And then we do the harmonic resonance. We don't have to do the harmonic collapse here and then jettison it. We can jettison it first, then the harmonic collapse and the photon torpedo immediately. That gets us to just about 60.
Yep, fair enough.
Yay!
And as the countdown timer starts for the depressurization, suddenly something happens, and spontaneously the Omega particles are starting to take on their stable form.
Yeah.
And
Janeway looks at 7, who says,
I've done nothing. It's occurring spontaneously.
Which is impossible. And we see this graphic, which was designed by, let me see if I've got the credits here. Robert Bonchoon is the name, who had a little bit of background in science.
Yeah.
And was given the instruction to come up with some image that 7 would think is divine.
Right.
And so he spent a long time like making this construction. He used the full toy box of the Lightwave software that they used for CGI on Voyager.
It looks a bit like a buckyball. Yeah,
That's literally what he started with.
Ah, okay.
He started with manually constructing a buckyball, the common name of Buckminster fullerene. Yes. It's a beautiful, beautiful name. An invention aided by LSD, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Yeah. As I recall the story, like they'd seen some results on a spectrogram showing that there was carbon-60 molecule that they just couldn't imagine how can 60 carbon
form a
molecules...
stable molecule, yes.
And then he got just a little high because LSD, in the 60s was known to sort of unlock problem-solving capabilities among high-performing people. And he came up with this beautiful three-dimensional structure that we're seeing here. And then he animated it flying apart, and then he reversed that and used volumetric light and all that other cool stuff.
So they are being shot at by the aliens who said, like, give us our shit back. Like, you stole this, you kidnapped our people.
Yeah,
we want our shit back. We want our technology. You thieves, you... Yes.
I won't allow this substance to fall into enemy hands. I'll destroy it first.
Right, yes. And they're like, yep, sorry, we're working on that. Like, Chakotay doesn't explain that. She's like, oh, yeah, that's fine. We're working on destroying it. Like, it's cool. It's all right. It's cool.
Yep. Very bad diplomacy. But yeah, that's not what we're doing right now. Everything else is rescinded. We just have to get it destroyed. And Janeway manages to pull Seven away. The plan is executed. There's a big bada boom. It's really cool.
Yes, it's like this almost aurora borealic type light which comes from that explosion.
It's a beautiful special effect.
The Voyager warps out just in time.
Now safe. We don't know whether the alien ships are able to survive this.
We don't know if they did, yeah. I mean, it's a big explosion. We don't know how far away they were. We assume that they... I guess. They brought the aliens back to their planet, I guess.
Those are the ones that they had on board.
Right, yeah.
The ones that they rescued.
Yeah, true.
It's very well possible that they actually killed those people.
Yes.
As part of the Omega Directive.
We don't know. It's not mentioned.
Sensors show no traces of Omega molecules.
And as the captain makes her last encrypted log before deleting all the data from her
all dogs
ship.
should be fucking encrypted, otherwise Boimler gets his hands on them. And he gives them to someone called Bob.
Yes, some guy named Bob. And she goes to the holodeck to find her Leonardo da Vinci program running.
Oh, that's the one. Okay.
Yeah. Which she's surprised by because Master da Vinci doesn't usually allow guests after dark.
Yes.
But
he protested. I deactivated him.
And Seven's there because she's contemplating a lot of the religious imagery in this simulation.
Yes.
To help her understand what she felt.
For 3.2 seconds, I saw perfection.
And she had the curious sensation, she says, as she sits down with Janeway, that as she was observing this structure, she felt that it was observing her.
Right, yes.
And Janeway has nothing to say to her except, if I didn't know better...
I'd say you just had your first spiritual experience.
Yeah.
And this is absolutely beautiful. This is where the episode ends. Like, the Bechdel test is often used as a way to reflect on how women are written in television, and how very rarely they get to speak to each other, and how very often it's about men, because there's a very male-centric bias in a lot of media.
God.
And here we have they're two professional women with different backgrounds. Mm-hmm. They're having a professional conflict. Also, a stereotype that's very often used on on shows that have more than one professional woman. Not professional in that way. I know what you're about to say.
Funny, that was just in the episode I was just listening to the other day.
That there has to be a conflict between them, but like this bond, it's not Kirk and Spock. It's very much its own thing. But like the Janeway 7 relationship has been such an anchor for Voyager for me.
All right. So that is the end of this episode.
Yeah, I need to push the flourish. Here we go. Now I'm on my last 3% of my tablet's battery.
All right.
So let's see if we make it through.
I can assist here. I've got the controls here as well, so I can push the buttons if you run out.
Yeah, why don't you do the sounds for the segments?
Oh,
hey, yeah, sure. Please.
All right, so that brings us to the first segment we have offering What Was. That brings us to the first segment that we have.
Cool.
Oh, wow, that was a big delay.
Okay, well, This is sort of the joy of Trek thing. We get to enjoy the technological foibles a bit, and we'll get there. We will. I think the Captain and Seven. Actually, the sort of trinity of no, it's even more than that. Tuvok is involved. He has a perspective. Janeway, Seven, Chakotay, Harry Kim not so much, and certainly since Roxanne Dawson was off having a baby, she wasn't very involved.
Paris also barely has lines.
Yeah, he also doesn't have much of a valid perspective on it.
Yeah.
And the Doctors, he also doesn't have the same overlap. Valid perspective is not what I mean.
Yeah.
I mean, they all have different combinations of scientific curiosity, spiritual interest, and responsibility. And having this structure that's about fundamentally a very simple conflict, danger versus benefits, risk versus reward. Having so many different people come to different conclusions and learning from one another. Infinite parts working harmoniously as one to achieve a result.
How can you have infinite parts in a molecule?
That one is very curious. What does that mean?
Yes.
Maybe it becomes subspatial and self-reflective and whatever.
Sure.
So what did you think was so fucking cool?
Well, despite the questionable science behind the Omega particle, I am definitely going to make the Omega particle myself fucking cool.
Okay.
Because I just love what they did in the visuals with it, both in the
spectacular,
both in the exploded research stations, as in the and then what they did when it was in the when the door to the containment field on the moon was opened. That was so yes, that definitely gets my so fucking cool.
Breathtaking. And with 1998, 99 technology.
Yeah, very well done.
Oh, that's a really good choice.
Captain's log, supplemental.
So, deleted scenes, where we talk about a scene that ended up on the cutting room floor.
So mine... Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes?
30 seconds ago, I would have said the Seven's litany of examples of Janeway's, superseding common sense in order to pursue her, in The Cloud. She enters a nebula for energy, prime factor. She wants to acquire advanced technology.
You mean kind of like the scene where Worf goes into complaint
exactly that, to Odo, and then Seven turns around with that same smile, picks up a stack of pads, Heroes and Demons, The Swarm, Dreadnought, Scorpion, that's a good one, and let's not forget the very one where I came aboard, just like so. But no, just now it had occurred to me, it was the scene where they're in the mess hall and having dinner, including B'Elanna, and she takes a sip of her milkshake, and she starts coughing. And everyone sort of moves aside while she climbs onto the table, and the coughing becomes worse. Becomes worse and worse and worse.
Chest burster.
And the doctor is summoned because that's when she delivers her baby. How about you?
I think. I'm a little bit tempted to go towards something which I kind of missed out in. Is the Vulcan logic game didn't play another part in. I can just imagine that there was a scene where Tuvok walks into the mess hall and Seven is sitting there playing with that game and using that to try and model the way the Omega molecule collapse can be stabilized. Because it kind of resembles that as well.
Yes, you're right.
The win condition of the game. So I would have liked to see that, where she's just trying to piece it together how it works.
Because that sort of self-harmonization at the end really resembled her solution to the Calto game.
I know. I always like to try to make a humorous.
I know, but this is great. It's a visual metaphor.
Exactly. Yes. Oh. So that's one I would have liked to see as a supplemental scene.
Oh, I really like that.
All right. So that leads us to
next time on an all-new episode of Star Trek,
where the chief engineer has prepared a few sound bites for us to listen to.
Yes, as a clue for the next recommendation we have received. And by the way, thank you to the Derp Prime for recommending this episode. The perspective that they shared on the themes of religion and science and the character development that we get and the lore. Yeah, this is absolutely brilliant. So, out of the many recommendations we've received, the chief has picked a new one and he's left us with a little breadcrumb trail of clues.
Yes.
See if we can figure it out.
You're going to have to play those because I don't know.
I am. I'm ready for it.
Right.
I have 2% left in battery. Oh, this reminds me. I know that this is wasting time. But there was an art project at one point, and it was an app on the early iPhone. Yes. It was a messaging program with no security, no accounts, or whatever. Yeah. It only works when you have 1% battery.
Yes, and it can't be plugged into a charger.
Yeah, and I did this once.
Very ephemeral.
Yeah. and you just like type in what your name is, and you chat with whoever else is in the world, also in this liminal space, and it was wild. Okay, so anyway, now that we're roughly there, here are our clues.
Starfleet said it's safe. That's good enough for me.
Okay.
Can't really identify it.
Yeah.
Starfleet says it's safe.
It's not a joke, Doctor. If that machine could move a birthmark, who knows what else it could do?
Move a birthmark. I mean, that's
machine could move a birthmark.
I mean, well, that's nothing for Bashir's gender reassignment shotgun. So,
and Captain Archer told me to stay in my quarters, but my mirror doesn't want to give me a solid reflection, and my shower can't decide whether to bounce off me or go through me.
Okay, so this is like Enterprise.
Yeah,
and it's like I don't think I've seen this
weird
episode.
Phasing kind of thing.
That seems like the thing.
Do you know how many molecules you're made of?
Well, more than 200 million.
Transporters thing?
Oh, transporter is a good idea.
I think there might be some. That sounds like something that would have gone wrong. Like someone's gotten out of phase in transporter, but they don't have transporters in Enterprise, do they?
They do. They've just recently been like rated for organic
that
material to be transported.
That would explain that. Starfleet says it's safe. That's the one.
Yeah. Okay, one more clue.
Transporter technology is very new. I'm sure humans were equally frightened when the automobile was introduced, or the airplane. New forms of transport take a while to get used to.
Oh, I wonder if there is a 4th season episode about the transporter.
Right.
Except I don't know it very well. Let's find out.
Episode is Enterprise 210.
2.
Vanishing Point.
Okay.
Ooh.
I am excited.
So am I. Apparently I don't have a lot of memories this early in the season, and yeah, just ticking over to the last 1% of my tablet's power.
There is only one thing left to do.
And that is... Oh, yours went off and mine is dying. Oh, let's see.
I'm leaving Starfleet.
Energize!
We hope you've enjoyed this week's episodes with your friends Kay and Kaki, production and editing by your chief engineer Greg, and music by Fox Amore. Join us next time for Vanishing Point, Enterprise, Season 2, Episode 10. Visit joyoftrek.com/links to send us a recommendation, support us on Patreon, or to find us on Twitter. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you for listening to The Joy of Trek, and we'll see you out there.